And we're in. Hello and welcome back to Conversations with My Father Season 2. That's me, that's my father. Welcome back everyone. Hope you enjoyed episode 2 when we were talking all things fashion. And I thought it'd be a nice follow-on from that, going from fashion to relationships. So maybe how our fashion affected our relationships.
Yes.
Maybe probably more negative than positive. For
in my
both
case,
parties,
yes,
yeah, definitely. But a big thank you to everyone again who's tuning in and listening, whether it's on Spotify or you're tuning in on YouTube or seeing our little Instagram snippets. We thank you very, very much, and once again, we'd much appreciate any likes, comments, shares, follows, whatever it may be, and if you can please.
It's down here somewhere, I think.
Down, yeah, around about there.
Down there, there's a little
icon of our faces, and if you hover that, if you're watching on YouTube, please hover and subscribe to that, to our channel. We really, really appreciate all the support. So, big thank you. Now,
before we get going?
Go on, go for it. Far away.
This, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, is possibly the last time you'll see me wearing glasses.
Oh yeah.
Because this week I am due to go in to have my cataract done. Both eyes at once under general anaesthetic, and then I'll have 20/20 vision again.
You are doing
for the
general
first time.
rather than local.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
I don't want to have any sort of discussions with the surgeon. I don't want to distract him talking about the weather or his investments or how his family are, where he's going on holiday. I just want him to get on with the job and make a good go of it.
Well, they're gouging your eye out.
Yeah, it's not the time for polite conversation during an operation.
So how long is it for? Do you know how long?
It's only about half an hour, 40 minutes.
Okay, yeah. But that's a long time to be under a local anaesthetic, isn't it? If that's the length of time they're doing it for, it's not a nice. And you're literally just sitting there. How do they stop you from blinking if you were to do local?
They hold your eyes open.
Do they?
Yeah.
Pin them back?
Yeah.
To look like you're really surprised the whole time?
Yes, absolutely.
Wow. You having fun, sir? Great fun.
Anyway,
yeah, crack on.
So that's how I'm going to look in future, hopefully.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. It's going to take a while getting used to that.
It will get
because Dad, for the 31 years I've been around now, I've known you to always wear glasses. You've never not worn glasses, have you?
I think that's right.
Even in, well, I say that you may have seen in our previous episode in a little bit of a promo, and we've even got it here now actually. But a photo. I would say photo. It is a photo. It looks like a painting, but it's one of Dad, which hopefully you've all seen by now. But yeah, without glasses. How old were you here?
18.
18.
Yeah.
With the curtains.
Centre parting,
yeah.
Which I thought.
So when did you first get glasses then?
Oh, for reading purposes, it was about 15, 16.
Okay.
I was shocked when I was told I had to have glasses.
Really?
And then I suppose for everyday use, it came in my late 20s.
But back then as well, glasses weren't. I wouldn't say they were very fashionable, were they?
No.
Well, not what they are today. You don't get the same array choice.
It was national health stuff. And
yeah.
plastic frames and everything.
Not ideal, but there we go.
No, style wasn't high on the list.
So anyway, we're not talking about fashion this week. We're touching on the relationships, both that I've had and that Dad's had. We've talked about the ladies in our life before when we sandwiched, or it was the filling of the sandwich between International Women's Day and Mother's Day.
Yes.
And we discussed, we kind of touched on that, but that was more appreciating the people we have currently in our life. So I thought it'd be fun to discuss, or we both thought it'd be fun to discuss our history of dating, maybe, and the impact and the relationships between me and, let's say, someone who I was dating, and you looking down as a parent, and then and the way you made me feel during those times, and then also the same with you, with bringing people back home and how your parents treated that situation.
Yeah, well, we're not going to go into
Too much
specific
depth.
detail.
No, no.
With this, it's just general sentiments, I think. But
Yeah.
I think to start off with, the example set to me by my parents
Yeah.
was very important, because having a solid family background, I didn't appreciate the value of it at the time, but I just knew that I was loved and that mum and dad loved each other in a, I would say, slightly reserved sort of way. There was no, or very little, open display of affection.
No. No passion.
Dad used to
Passionately kissing each other.
No, good heavens,
in front of you.
Dad used to whack mum on the backside as a show of affection.
Not behind closed doors. That was just in front of you.
It was in the kitchen,
right?
In the kitchen, and mum
Go
was
on, darling. Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
But
you openly witnessed your dad spanking your mum, basically.
well, not spanking her. It was a display of affection. I don't want you to get anyone get the wrong idea.
Well, you've painted the picture, so
yeah. So whack on the backside is perhaps
Right.
too strong a description.
A tap.
Anyway, they were very fond of each other, and I felt extremely secure. They were always there for me. Mum would come and watch me play sport at prep school, and occasionally they'd come down to Eastbourne, which is, and they were present when I got the ball in the face, which has caused that scar on my right eyebrow. That was fielding in the gully.
Drop catch.
Yeah, it was a drop catch technically, because I only got my hands that
There,
far
and your face to
together, and the ball came through there and caught me
nasty.
square on.
So yeah, they came and watched you.
They came and watched me, which made me feel great.
Yeah.
And I just, it was important that, I mean, I can say this retrospectively, of course, with the benefit of hindsight, but having that firm foundation and seeing mum and dad getting on with each other, they never really seemed to argue in front of me. And that's what I've tried to do as an adult.
Emulate for us.
Because, yes, emulating is a good word. Just to try to copy that and pass on the good things that I experienced as a child. So I found mum and dad were extremely good at that. Now, there were other people around. Of course, you look at other adults and how they are with their relationships, and I very, very rarely saw any expressions of discontent. But I think that was a sign of the times back in the 60s, 1960s, that meant that sort of open display of dissatisfaction or disquiet with the relationship, that wasn't made public at all. It was very much hidden away for fear of embarrassment, for fear of humiliation, because divorce, separation, those were rude words. Even though my
Do you
grandma
know what
was
the kind of divorce rate would have been like back then, compared to what it is now? Not as high as it is now.
I don't think it would have been. I think because it was post-war, people had suffered a lot post-war and had gone through immense trauma, losing people and relationships during wartime. And my father had one before he met Mum in North Africa. And of course, when you're at war, relationships can be very powerful. Especially when you're away from the home environment. And
Distance makes the heart grow
Dad
fonder.
did have a relationship with a young lady, a waif or something.
A beautiful young lady.
Sorry?
A beautiful young lady.
Well,
It's a man, actually, don't.
she was called Joan, and when Mum died, Dad invited her to stay. She lived up in Scotland. And Dad
Did I ever meet Joan?
No, I don't think you did. No.
Different Joan.
I don't think you did.
Okay.
Anyway, he invited her to stay, and no, this was before I married Mum.
Oh, right, sorry, right.
Early to mid 1980s.
Yeah.
And she was a lovely lady, but it was probably too soon after Mum had died, and I couldn't cope with Dad being fond of someone else. I had no idea how fond of her he was.
Yeah.
But I found it very difficult to take, and I was surly and unwelcoming, and I regret that. Continually, I regret that. I was not kind, which
But that's also
she
quite
didn't
natural,
deserve.
But I reckon for someone who was, how old were you?
23, 24.
Yeah. So it's quite I'd say it's quite a normal emotion to feel.
Yeah, but I didn't get over it. I didn't rationalise it and realise that this was making my father happy.
Yeah.
I was emotionally immature, but it taught me a lesson that I hope I will heed.
Well, it's an interesting one
years to
because
come.
I did want to ask you the other way round how your dad felt, maybe your mum as well, how they felt when you brought someone home.
Yes.
And obviously that's the other way around. What you were just saying now is when Dad brought someone home that wasn't your mum after Mum had passed, and
Yes.
obviously didn't make you feel nice, but it's a slightly different situation. But
Yes.
how was their reaction to you
Bringing
someone home? Yeah, was that a common
I was
thing?
always thinking marriage whenever I brought a girlfriend home.
Oh, right, you were.
I was straight. I wasn't thinking about having fun or just enjoying life with somebody with no particular commitment.
Right.
Which seems to be much more the way of doing things today. So I didn't.
Every time you brought someone home, you were like, "I'm going to marry them."
I was thinking I would declare love for them, and they'd say, "Don't be so stupid." And they were absolutely right. But I was.
Yeah. So you fell deeply and quickly.
Yeah. I'm emotionally immature, having no sisters, having been to a school that was single sex up to O levels, and then it was mixed in the sixth form.
Yeah.
And university, of course, was mixed, but my ability to develop a relationship was crass.
Okay. So how did Dad is. I'd never met Dad's mum. Obviously, she was. What, you were 20? How old were you when she died? 22 when she died. But I did know Dad's dad for 3 years. Very, and very, very fond memories of Derek. However, what were
there, actually,
he can't
Dad,
they can't see
you
that.
can't see
no,
that.
But we can get that for them another time. What was his reaction to you bringing someone home? How was he? Because before you answer that, was he similar to how you are, or you have been when I've brought someone home? In the sense you'd often like to embarrass me.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
I don't often like to embarrass you. I just want to create a not too serious atmosphere.
Yeah.
Where we don't take each other too seriously.
No, but that's what we're both
and
like.
we can laugh about it.
So was Derek similar, would you say?
Little bit, yes.
Yeah.
I would say he was. I mean, goodness me, if I brought a girlfriend home for a weekend, then I would certainly not be, we would not be sleeping in the same room.
No.
And Dad would make it quite clear that he was, if he was in bed, he'd make a lot of noise. He'd talk to himself. He'd yawn. Oh, ho, 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 ho. I don't know. Life's good, isn't it? I must get to sleep now. Getting late. Got to get up early.
So for hours he'd do that.
Yes,
Yeah.
and the floorboards creaked. There was no hope of my
creeping
around the place.
No.
He'd be up like a shot.
Yeah.
And when Mum came to stay with me first in Aylesbury, when I was trying to become an accountant, frightfully unsuccessfully, it was a one up, one down,
Right.
literally.
Yeah.
So 1 bedroom, bathroom upstairs, and
Yeah.
just 1 room downstairs.
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, where does Rowena stay when she comes here?" And I said,
That was your
"Well,
mum saying that?
No, it was
Oh, I
Dad.
was going to say she's got a very deep voice.
And I said, "Dad, it's all fine. We've sorted this out." And he said, "Well, the sofa isn't big enough for you to sleep downstairs." I said, "No, Dad, it's fine." And he chuckled then. And
How old were you at this time?
I was 25.
Okay, yeah, so certainly of age, let's put it that way.
Yes, very
Yeah.
much so.
Okay.
But yes, Dad did he made it quite clear, and out of respect for him,
Yeah.
and in memory of Mum, I would not go bedroom crawling.
No.
That just wasn't right. It didn't feel right.
Sure.
I mean, of course, Mum, your mother and father,
Yeah.
are much more relaxed about that sort of thing.
Yeah. But in the early stages, you would probably be more hot on making sure that...
I don't want anyone to feel embarrassed.
No.
I don't want any pressure.
You definitely never said, right, you're in that room, good night, no naughty stuff. You'd never say that. I think we were certainly the kind of first few times it was more like that, but it wasn't necessarily from you that was saying that. So I felt, other than the first initial maybe hour or so of them being here, you'd try and embarrass me in front of whoever it was.
I'm
But
sorry.
in a light-hearted way, I think. But as you say, I think we both don't really take ourselves too seriously, and in that sense, it makes it. I don't mind it. I didn't mind it at all. But it was like, oh, here we go. Eye roll here, and we brought someone back home again, and Dad's gonna
denigrate.
Exactly. There you go. So yeah, it's just interesting that maybe your dad, maybe you've got that, or maybe that's just a fatherly thing to do as a protective man of the house.
I wanted to. It applies equally to Phoebe and boyfriends.
Yeah.
And to Albert with girlfriends, and you with girlfriends.
Yeah.
It was important to make them feel at home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if they like you,
yeah.
And I suppose, yes, I'm thinking about marriage prospects,
yeah.
And settling down together.
Yeah.
I'm wanting them to feel at ease.
Yeah.
And quickly get to know what this family is all about.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Which is full of respect and love.
So how did you? What kind of? When I first brought someone back, what was your kind of initial reaction? Were you kind of like, "Go on, son," or
no,
more of just a, "Oh, okay"?
No.
Interesting taste.
No. It wasn't like that at all.
No. No sense of pride. My boys.
Well,
boys got game.
Yes, but
or lack of.
But I wasn't there thinking, "Get in there, my son." No, it's no.
None of that.
No.
No. Okay.
And this would, you get a very different story if you were interviewing or having a conversation with Albert's godfather.
Yeah, very true. Yeah.
But
very true.
I'm not quite from that same mould.
Yeah. Okay.
So no, I wanted you to feel at home, to enjoy yourself on your own or with us, and enjoy this lovely house that we have.
Yeah, because I suppose I was always very, maybe out of the three of us kids, I've always been just very relaxed and open about my relationships,
You have,
and I find it, but then that's also thanks to you, because you've created such a warm and welcoming home. So I've always been like, of course, like even after maybe 2 or 3 dates with someone, I'd be like, please, like, come home. I would love you to meet my parents, and certainly not with the idea. I was a very slow mover, so to speak, with regards to falling in love. So I wasn't in the same mindset as you, being like, right, I'm going to marry this person. It was far more of I just felt at ease bringing someone back.
Yes.
I wasn't like, oh God, I don't know if I'm ready for them to meet mum
the
and
parents.
dad yet, or my family.
The
So
Fockers.
often it was often it was me bringing her back here to before I met her parents. Let's say
Okay.
I always, it was generally speaking, that was kind of how it was, because I felt very at ease bringing someone home.
Yes.
So
that's
credit
very
to
nice
you
to
for
know
that. Did you feel comfortable taking someone back to your parents?
Yes.
Or to home?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it wasn't ever like,
I mean,
oh God.
To be honest, it was more, we've had a few drinks in the pub, would you care to stay the night rather than drive?
Yeah, yeah. Sensible.
So, yeah, it was all very amateur stuff as far as I was concerned.
Yeah.
And it was strange that when Mum had died,
Yeah.
I felt a little bit that the shackles were off. I didn't have to tell Mum and Dad where I was the whole time. And I think Dad was quite encouraging for me to go out and about and start living life. So, I suppose I acquired a greater degree of sophistication, still very low on the overall scale.
Yeah.
But in my mid-20s, I was getting a bit better, and that seemed to work with Mum. Thank heavens.
How did my mum, so your wife, fit in to your family dynamic once your mum had passed? Because my mum never met your mum, did she?
No. I met Mum 5 months after my mum had died.
Yeah. So did she kind of feel that lady figure, I suppose, in your house that there was a huge hole there, and then she just slotted straight in?
Yes.
And it kind of was very good timing.
It was perfect timing.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
Mum is tall and elegant and beautiful, and I would regard my mother as tall and elegant and beautiful. And Dad was so happy that I had met Mum. I think he realised pretty quickly that she was the one.
Prior to other people that you thought were the one?
I'm not sure that there were any that we thought were the one.
Well, you said you wanted to marry them. The
Yeah, I
people you brought home.
know, I know, but they pretty soon disabused me of that notion.
Okay. That's really nice, because that is, as you say, timing-wise, it just worked perfectly.
Yes.
And what was your dad's relationship like with Rowena? Yeah, Mum. So I'm trying to get Mum and Dad.
Absolutely fabulous.
Yeah. Really nice.
And this was a tough period for Mum.
Yeah.
Because when I met her, I was a postman.
With your shorts on? Did you have shorts?
No, I never wore shorts.
Oh. Just boxers?
No.
Briefs? Would this man please wear some trousers?
No, it wasn't like
Very
that.
unprofessional.
When I first met Mum, I was a postman and cycling round Great Shelford delivering the post.
Yeah.
Which was actually a lovely job to have, because it just gave me peace and quiet. And at that time, it was important in the aftermath of Mum dying. And then I got the job as a trainee accountant.
Yeah.
And just before my exams, I came home for a quiet weekend with Dad to find him in hospital having a heart attack.
Yeah.
And Mum had to cope with all of this. The prospect of my still mourning my mother, and then Dad possibly dying just over a year later, and me by that stage making a complete Horlicks of accountancy.
Yeah.
She was thinking, what on earth have I got myself into here?
Yeah.
But she coped incredibly well with that, and she was a magnificent support to me. Really fantastic. And I shall never forget that and never cease appreciating it. And from there on, we've been great. Dad got better.
Yeah.
And that's also a great nod of thanks and gratitude to my stepmother, who married dad,
Yeah.
only 5 months after Mum and I were married,
Yeah.
and brought him much joy, pleasure, adventure, love. That was, difficult for me to accept at the time. Again,
Yeah.
even though I was then late 20s, early 30s, it was, she was a different person.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course.
In the house, different to Mum,
Yeah.
and did things in a different way. But I did appreciate that she brought Dad much happiness and care and compassion, and that was hugely important for me. Whilst dating Mum,
Yeah.
I didn't have to go up and be with Dad and look after him all the time.
It's an interesting dynamic, that, because obviously your mum passed, and therefore obviously your dad then being with another lady would have been tough to see. However, it's different to them having divorced
Yes.
and then him being with someone else.
Yeah.
So it was.
I don't know how that feels.
No, exactly, and you can only ever speak from your experience. But it's a tricky one, because I have friends who've, well, we both know there's a family we know who one of my best mates whose dad sadly passed, and then that creates a very different dynamic in the family, and then having to be accepting of the mum moving on after a certain period of time, and then friends we know as well whose parents have divorced, and then again naturally life goes on and you meet new people, and it's very tricky, I think, at first, for, if you're a close family, for the children to accept that.
Yes.
And to be kind of welcoming them with open arms, being like, lovely to see you, really nice to meet you. Yeah. Welcome to the family. It's there. Very rarely, I think, would that happen straight away. So it's a tricky dynamic. But I feel from what I knew, because I knew Trisha well, I only ever saw them very happy together, so I didn't know what it was like for you first.
Log on again.
Didn't know what it was like for you firsthand to meet her when Dad first brought her home, and that must have been tough.
Yeah, it was difficult. It's difficult. Some people watching will understand, I think, how challenging it can be to see a parent fall in love. Normally it's the other way around.
Yeah.
It's the parent seeing a child fall in love and go all gaga and slightly irrational. But to see a parent doing that is an unusual experience.
Yeah.
And they do become gaga again.
Yeah.
Well, I think you know what I mean if you've experienced it. And that's quite a challenging behaviour to try and deal with. But it shows that they're happy. And as long as the child-parent relationship remains firm, solid, respectful, then there's nothing wrong with that. That's what matters.
Yeah.
Is the parent-child relationship and keeping the lines of communication open.
I agree.
When you see a parent having a lovely time with somebody else, just make sure that the parent-child relationship is the thing that is still paramount and most important. And my father said that to me when I expressed the odd concern to him, such as he asked me to sign the visitor's book when I came home once, and I said, Dad, please don't ask me ever to do that again. This is my family home.
Was he being serious? It wasn't a joke.
But he loved having a record of who had come to stay.
Oh, I see.
And it was well after I'd moved out. But I said, no, Dad, I'm really not doing that.
So when you start doing that here, I'll begin to know that I'm not as welcome anymore.
No, I'll never ask you.
Please,
to do that. We don't have a visitor's book here anyway.
Very true.
I don't need to look back and see who came to stay when.
No, because you know.
Or read through people's comments. It's not important to me.
No, very true.
Anyway,
Yeah.
that is, I think, so we've covered
Yeah,
my
you've got a few.
parents.
Yeah.
We've covered my my personal experience of bringing people home. There wasn't a lot of it, actually, if I recollect correctly. I always went over the top very quickly,
Yeah.
and then it dimmed very quickly because I was probably too heavy-handed. Anyway,
Literally.
possibly, but
Possibly.
we don't need to go into that.
Yeah.
Anyway, as a parent
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
seeing you
the-
coming home and Phoebe and Bertie coming home with
Yeah.
other halves, it's been an absolute delight, because you're on a journey through life, and seeking partnerships
Yeah.
along the way, which is absolutely lovely. So I think making sure that you have a comfortable environment in which to bring girlfriends, boyfriends home.
Have there been any times where I brought someone back and you've been like, oh God, what's he thinking?
No, never like that. I mean, because
Good.
our communications as a family are very good.
Pretty good, yeah. I agree.
There's no sense of criticism. I always think back to the psychological state of people, and this is an incredibly good lesson for life, which I was taught in a management training course once. There's the angry child and the frightened child, then there is the adult state in the middle, and then the other extreme is critical parent, nurturing parent.
Yeah.
And I always try to get into the middle state, the adult,
Okay.
even with youngsters, because I think they appreciate that.
Yeah.
And therefore being able to encourage you to listen to us in conversation and express your views in conversation as an adult in that psychological state is the best way of getting things done. We don't want criticism, we don't want fear. It's important just to sit down, talk about it. As a critical friend, that's another very useful phrase.
Okay.
If you're going to be telling something to somebody which they may not welcome,
Yeah.
just make the point that you're being a critical friend with the emphasis on friend.
Makes it sound less.
Well, less aggressive and
Yeah.
confrontational.
Yeah.
So I think that adult state and being a critical friend has helped us nurture you, you to tell us things,
Yeah.
and we have just as much to learn from you and your generation as we have to teach you. And I think that's for our generation, which has seen a huge change in the dynamic of relationships, not just within families, but within the office. Listen to what the younger generation have to say. Listen to their ideas. Don't just think that because I had to go through it, the next generation have to go through that as well.
Yeah.
That's absolutely not the right way to look at it.
Yeah.
You look at ways of evolution, evolving the roles in an office, in a work environment, and listening to the younger generation with the new ideas, with the better education, certainly for technology.
Yeah.
How do they wish to do it?
Yeah.
And then listen to them, and they equally listen to you. We won't do that because, or I think that's a very good idea because.
Yeah.
And that can take, you need to be big, open-minded
I think
as an adult.
I really like that, what you're saying, because it's very true, but there's a moment in life when you're growing up and you begin to hit a certain age where you begin to turn, the parent-child relationship begins to turn into it's still parent and child, but it's more adult to adult.
Yes.
And you begin to think, actually, you start talking about certain things where you feel like you're on the same level.
Yes.
But I don't know how to, I don't think there's an age necessarily where you hit it, but I felt maybe like it was more mid to late, maybe mid-20s,
Yes.
where I was beginning to be like, actually, I feel completely at ease disclosing certain things with you.
Yes.
And we can disagree on certain things, not that
Yeah.
we really do very often
Yeah,
at all,
that's very true.
but we, as you just said, you begin to really take on board what our generation have to say, and not be all just about parenting and being like, right, this is the way we did it, and therefore this is the way you should do it.
Yes.
Whereas when we're in our teens, it's a little bit more like that.
Yes.
In a sense of, you have to be a little bit more disciplined, maybe. And we still
yeah.
look up. I mean, I will always look up to you and Mum, because you've set an amazing standard, let's say, and something I wish, if I can replicate even half of that, then I'll be very, very happy.
Well, it's your experiences. Sorry, you carry on.
Yeah, but no, I'm just saying it's something that we do aspire to try and live our lives by. But yeah, it is. We do certainly, as time moves on, we experience different things, and stuff modernizes, and
Yeah.
the way we act maybe is slightly different to the way you'd have acted when you were in your mid to late 20s into your
Yes.
30s, whatever.
Yes.
Relationships are different. As you said earlier, it's far more, maybe our generation is far more open about just casually dating, as they may have,
Yes.
compared to yours. I don't know, it's just, time moves on.
Yeah.
So therefore it's important that you're kept up to date with it.
Yes.
And you understand it, rather than being like, no, this is not how I did it, and therefore this is the way you need to do it. So
Yes. Yes. And
Yeah.
it's important that other things go along with that, such as misogyny, sexism, racism.
Yeah.
Casual thoughts though they may be, it is nonetheless vital that those influences upon my junior years are not transferred to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because without a shadow of doubt, I was brought up in an environment where there was casual racism. I didn't understand it necessarily at the time.
Yeah, well, that would have been what, the 70s and 80s?
Yeah, 60s and 70s, I would say
70s,
more.
yeah.
And, less so possibly the 1980s.
Yeah.
I'm going to sneeze, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Go on, eyes open. Give it a go.
Sorry, excuse me. There we go.
Fantastic.
That's better.
Yeah, but that's
So-
it's very true, because that was the way things were. I mean, how much times have changed in the past 40, 50 years of you going from your, let's say, your 20s to your 60s.
Yes.
It's a huge amount of change.
Yes, it is.
That,
But it still carries across
Yeah.
into our generation.
yeah,
And it's not enough to say, I'm not sexist, I'm not racist. You actively must call it out.
yeah,
It's incredibly difficult amongst your friends to do so. But it must be done. And the younger generation must see that happening. Otherwise, it will just maintain. And sexism, racism has gone on for centuries. There have been brilliant women who have achieved incredible things, and yet women in so many households across the world are regarded as second-class citizens for cultural, social, religious reasons. And I find that very difficult to tolerate. And the same with race. We're equal in so many ways. Culturally,
yeah,
different, but the importance of people and their different cultures, if we take the trouble to understand, to find out and understand,
yeah, and not be.
which isn't necessarily taught as well as it should be in schools and university, about just the world in which we live. There should be courses taught
Yeah, yeah.
on that matter.
Yeah, I agree.
And we're in a
Because otherwise it won't change.
No, it won't.
It will just because it has to come from like grassroots level and build up.
Make,
but yeah, I do, bringing it back to what we were talking about, relationship wise.
Yes. Thank you.
I would like to think, that's a good little tangent, but I would like to think as maybe my generation, I'm very lucky. Maybe it sounds a bit harsh saying this, but I feel like a couple of generations below me, let's say the kind of, people that are maybe in their teens now, where they're very influenced by social media and TikTok and all these sort of trends, and people being very like just so relaxed about the way they are and the way they date, the way they, the language they use, and they're just like, people can just earn money from doing stupid stuff.
Yes.
Just becoming a character or perform many characters on TikTok or whatever it may be, and because it's all about freedom of speech and whatnot, and you can just do whatever you like, but it sets a certain what's the word I'm looking for? It sets a tone for the people, the generation that then look up to them, and thinking, oh well, if they can act like that and they earn money from doing it, then of course I'm gonna do the same.
Yes.
And I think there's a lack of respect, I feel, that's from what I've seen, that's creeping into that generation for women and the way maybe they're treated. And I feel I really hope it doesn't continue, and I hope it is something that is squashed. But I do feel like there is this problem with social media where people are looked at in a certain way, and we're trying to, as you say, we need to keep moving on and be more understanding and equal in every way we can. But the problem with social media, sometimes it does this. But hopefully we, as two individuals, with a certain platform online, can do our bit. Let's say it's all we can do, isn't it? Is to try and set a decent example. But yeah, was there anything else you had written down?
Yeah, I was going to ask you about your experiences and feelings about how your parents have influenced your behaviours and experiences as a young adult in life, not just necessarily in love, but relationships with all your friends who come back here. We like to think it's a perhaps love my son, love us situation, but that brings us enormous pleasure. And I just wanted to ask you how you felt that has been for you over the years.
Well, I think you probably know the answer, if I'm honest, because you...
Oh, but they don't.
No, that's true. That's very true. Mum and Dad have created one of, and I feel so fortunate being the recipient of this, but creating such a warm and open family home that, as I said earlier, it makes it a very, very easy decision for me to want to bring, whether that be a girlfriend at the time or a friend or whoever it may be, back home, because I just feel completely at ease with you. I know that, yes, we were saying about you, a little bit of embarrassment and so on, but it's because we both know each other so well, so we can take the mick out of each other every now and then. But I come back home, and I think my brother and my sister are the same, and we feel like we can bring anyone home, and it feel very easy, warming, comforting, welcoming environment that you and Mum have created for us. And so many of our friends, without sounding big-headed, so many of our friends often say how much they love coming back here as well, because it is a very lovely home that you and Mum have created for us. It's not just four walls with a roof. It's everything else that comes with it. It's a feeling. It's an environment that is just so relaxing and lovely. I've got to run out of words to describe it, but and the overriding feeling is because we're so fortunate. I say fortunate because I do think it is a bit of a rarity to have you and Mum still happily married and very much in love after 37 years of marriage. 36.
It's
Was it
36?
36 you just had, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. And I only really, if I could probably count on, I'd like to say two hands, the families we know that have been happily, or the parents of families we know who have been happily married for a similar amount of time.
Yeah.
I think we work. Yeah, I'm not going to name them, but I think, but what I'm trying to say is that they're a minority. I feel there are probably more people I know that have come from divorced families or separated parents than love. And there's necessarily nothing wrong with that. But what I'm saying is that you and Mum have made it incredibly easy for us to come home and feel like we could bring anyone back.
Yes.
And for that, I'm forever grateful. And I hope that I can do something similar with my future family.
Yes.
And create the same sort of environment. Because I know there are a lot of my mates that wouldn't be as comfortable bringing girlfriends back or boyfriends back. Or friends back home because of maybe the environment that's there. Not that it's a bad environment, just not as welcoming and as kind of warming as you guys have created.
Well, that's very kind of you to say so, and it warms my heart to hear it, because it's exactly what we have tried to do, based on my own experience, and Mum would say the same.
Yeah.
Having that stable family background.
Yeah.
With few rows going on.
Very little. I certainly can't remember a time when you had a proper row. You had a bit of bickering every now and then, but you're bound to get that in 36 years of marriage and longer being together. 40 years of being together, isn't it?
Yes.
It's bound to happen. Everyone has it, but never did I ever think, oh God, Mum and Dad are going to separate, or there's real tension in the family, and that then bleeds down into us, and then the relationships we had.
Filters, I think, rather than bleeds.
Okay, sorry.
Bleeds is just a bit too medical.
Sorry.
For my liking.
So yeah, it does. Of course, your environment dictates who you are and how you behave. I'm a big believer in that, and you are.
Rather
I think there was
than it being in the blood.
Indeed. Well, it could be in the blood. It could well be in the blood, potentially. But there's that saying that, I hope I'm going to get this right, but I think you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with in your life. Something like that.
Oh.
Which I really like. So let's say, as you move on throughout your life, that those people will change. And
5 people.
I think it's something like that.
That's
something like that. So if you are surrounded by love and compassion and just positive, good humour, all this, then of course that's gonna have an effect on you.
Yes.
But then and then the opposite, if it's not that, and you're surrounded by negativity and being pessimistic and all these, let's say, negative traits, then naturally that's going to affect you.
Yes.
So I suppose a nice way of kind of summarising this episode in a way has been the relationships that you've had with your girlfriends and now wife.
Yes.
Have been so successful because of the environment that your parents created.
Yes.
And therefore the same with me, and certainly
I would say, sorry to interrupt, but in my case, being turned down is very important, because you know what it's like to feel rejected.
Definitely. And I've had that before, for sure.
And that teaches one a lesson.
Yeah.
To be compassionate when it's you that's doing that to somebody else. I think that's very important, and you and Bertie and Phoebe have done that incredibly well, so that when a relationship ends, you remain friends, or you do so on courteous, mutually respectful terms.
Yeah, I certainly would like to think so. Of course, it's very hard to know what the other person's going through feelings wise
Yes.
when you let's say if you are the person ending that relationship.
Yeah.
But I would like to think I try and do it in the, no one ever gets it spot on. It's very
No.
hard to. But I hate the feeling of someone being annoyed or angry at me.
Yes.
I'm a big believer in not worrying too much about what other people think, but when it comes to relationships and the level of respect and the what's the word beginning with R, when you leave your reputation.
Yes.
When that, because the reputation is everything, I find.
Takes
when you
years
have,
to build and only a
exactly
minute or two to destroy.
Exactly. So certainly when it comes to relationships, it's very important to leave things on as good a terms as possible.
Yes,
And
quite.
every journey comes to an end somehow.
Yeah.
It just does,
Yeah,
whether that
well.
be from just generally parting ways, or whether it be from divorce, from just friendships breaking down, whether it be death. Yeah, exactly. They do come to an end. So it's important that when that does happen, you kind of look back with fond memories rather than
Yeah.
negative ones. So
Quite
so where
so.
I was going with that is, I think I'm very lucky, and I think my brother and my sister are also very lucky to have come from a very warm and stable and loving family.
Yes.
That hopefully filters down, or has filtered down, into the way we are, and the way we are with others as well when we're in
Yes.
relationships or our friendships or whatever that may be.
Yes.
So I hope the people that are watching this as well, that know me well, and friends of mine or our family will hopefully feel the same way. But you can never get it spot on. Of course,
No.
there are going to be times where it's up and down. But generally speaking, I feel like you've created a very, very good environment for us to be.
Yes.
That way.
We don't pretend to have all the answers to all the questions. Far from it. But if there's something that struck a chord in all of that, then that is great. It makes it all
Can we leave a
worthwhile.
bit of advice for anyone that's struggling in that sense?
Oh,
Wise wisdom, a pocket of wisdom from you.
Well,
Dating wisdom. How about that?
since I've been beyond the age of dating, or beyond the need of dating,
Yeah.
which was pretty much since I met Mum. There was no dating of other people
Good.
after I met Mum,
Yeah.
really. Or after I mentally committed to Mum.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
is
Exactly.
probably a better way of describing it. Since then, I've never felt awkward about being slightly flirtatious, which is only engaging with people and being open and kind and natural, and trying to be amusing, because I think that's very important. I like making people laugh.
Yeah.
And I think just being as natural as you can.
Yeah.
Do I like being the centre of attention? As a youngster, really, no. I was very shy.
You've grown into that role.
I think I probably have.
Yeah. Spotlight on you.
And I just like talking to people and asking them questions. The more I go to social events, big social events, where the person I'm talking to just receives all my questions and asks nothing. That is socially inept.
Yeah.
Just engage
Yeah.
with the person you're talking
Yeah.
to. And if you feel they've been asking you lots of questions, then just turn the tables. Says, now,
Yeah.
my turn to find out more about you and what interests you and your background and so on.
Yeah.
And that's a conversation. It's
Yeah.
not really a monologue.
Yeah.
I'm very happy asking questions.
Yeah.
And I'm equally happy talking about myself, but it's got to be two-way.
Yeah, I agree.
So absolutely engage
Yeah.
with someone and just be interesting and generous with your time. And I think that plus humour plus not taking yourself too seriously.
But I think the overriding thing there, and because I'm very similar to you in that way, is trust between the two parties.
Yes.
So
true.
I'm very much the same. I will happily, and that's why Poppy and I feel are so good, is because we're both very similar in this way. Is that we could go on a night out, we go out for drinks, and let's say I go to the loo and come back and she's chatting to someone at the bar.
Yes.
Or I said someone had come up to her, whatever it may be. I have no issue with it.
Yes.
I'm like, you go for it. If anything, I find it as a compliment if someone else finds my girlfriend attractive or wants to talk to her.
Yes.
And I know where we are in our relationship. I have complete trust in her.
Yes.
And the same can be said for her to me as well.
Yes.
So that I know if I go out, or we go for drinks with people, and I'm talking to a girl for a while, you just know it's all at ease and it's absolutely fine, and feeling comfortable and having that trust in a relationship is one of the most incredible feelings.
Yes, it is. Quite right.
That because then you can move forwards together and be completely at ease. If you're in a relationship whereby you can't feel you can speak to someone of the opposite sex or the sex that you're attracted to, and you feel like you're just you're limited to those sort of conversations, then you're going to be very much held back from being the person you feel you want to be.
Yes.
Feel you are. So I think, ultimately trust is a huge one. So try and lock that in early doors in a relationship. But that's my probably bit of advice.
Yeah. Well, the same would apply to Mum and me.
Yeah, exactly. And you can just tell because both of you are very open and engaging people. So when you both go to drinks parties and so on, then often when I've been there as well, you'll just separate.
Yes.
And you'll go your own way, and then I'm the same with Poppy, and because I'm like, well, I'm at a drinks party with other people. I'm with Poppy the whole time. I don't need to speak to her and have her right by my side. I'm like, you go and talk to new people. I'll go and talk to new people, and it's just always comes back to that trust.
It so adds to one's enjoyment of an occasion like that. If you say, right, I'm going to take the plunge, I'm going to speak to that person over there. Yeah. May I join you? I'm so and so.
Yeah.
Well, in my case, hi, I'm Chris.
Yeah. I'm
and just start a conversation, and people so often welcome it.
Yeah.
Say, oh, thank you for coming to speak to me. They don't say that, but you can see in their demeanour that they're delighted to have someone else come and chat. And I had to do it professionally for a while, but it's one of those good things in life.
No, I think so. You've taught me, because I love doing it. I love meeting new people and just growing a network of friends or
acquaintances. Yes, and you'll always be remembered for being open, friendly, and interesting.
Well, very good. I think that's a nice way of rounding it off. Would you say?
Yeah, I think it's covered everything that I've put down here.
Yeah, it's such a big topic, and we've kind of flirted around the edges in the past, and skirted. I do get those phrases wrong.
No, it's all right,
and
but that's what I'm here for.
That's what you're there for. Hopefully those little pockets of information and advice.
Good. I'm the minister of correcting incorrect use of English.
Yeah, exactly. You're very good. You're an encyclopedia for that, I suppose.
Which my dear friend Nick will understand very well.
We really hope you guys are enjoying these episodes in season 2, because we so love doing them, and if we can even just provide the tiniest bit of information or help to you, then fantastic.
And even if you just like seeing us wittering on.
Yeah, exactly. Either way.
That is equally pleasurable for us.
Yeah. And thank you very much. If you've got this far on this episode, thank you. We really, really appreciate you.
Thank you very much indeed.
You tuning in and lasting this long. So we're coming. This is going to be released in early December. So we're not far away from Christmas now. We have plans that we want to try and get out as much as we can from now until Christmas, with a little Christmas special as well. We've got to try and top off what we did last year, which was pretty good, I thought. Maybe another confetti cannon. even bigger this time.
Well, yeah, that did
More
give me a
mince pies.
surprise.
Yeah.
I've noticed when I'm surprised, I
You
do that.
really,
and
yeah.
Yeah.
Shit the bed. Yeah, it's quite something.
Well, no, I don't.
No,
No.
I don't do that. But anyway, that's a nice way of rounding off season 2, episode 3.
Yes.
And just once again, please do like, share, comment, subscribe.
Exactly.
Pass the
Tell your friends
tell
about
your
us.
friends about us. Yeah, in whatever way you feel appropriate. And we look forward to seeing you in the next one.
Yeah,
So
you
that's
bet.
Episode 3.
In the
over now.
meantime, take good care of yourselves.
Yeah,
And start enjoying the run up to Christmas.
exactly. Spot on. Alrighty, well done. Over and out. Well done.